let the electronic thing get through. And first of all, it's good to see this wonderful team. I've missed you all. And, see, I have another bandage on here, so yet doing damage to body. I was determined. I said I was determined to give this body back to the Lord the way He gave it to me, not to add something to it or take something from it. So I don't have any tattoos, no artificial parts, but you never know what you might acquire before the end. I'll call the meeting to order, and I'm going to ask if you all would follow me with the agenda and review the minutes from our February meeting, and give me, if you would, a vote to approve our minutes or revise or amend.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and second. Ms. Carnes, will we call a roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Conyers?
Aye.
Ms. Chudzinski? Aye. Dr. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Purrier? Aye. Mr. Albert?
Aye. We are at the period of public comment, which comes up relatively early in our agenda today. So what I would say is we're going to really adhere to the 3-minute policy that we've established, and per year fellow commissioner,
Official timekeeper
will monitor the time if we have a public comment that look like they may run over. But are we ready?
At this time, we have 3 in-person speakers. The first is Ken Kimney, 415 Graydon Drive. Topic to address is Pinewell by the Bay, immediately followed by James Davis. Topic to address is also Pinewell by the Bay, and I will announce the third after which you finish speaking.
All right. So in that order, are you all speaking on the same issue?
Well, what we would like to do is, I think I can keep this thing as close to 3 minutes as possible.
Oh,
But I
asked
asked your assistant that if I go over a little bit.
Well, we got you. We're gonna cut that mic off.
Well, that's okay. You know what? I just let you know that I'm pretty loud.
No.
So I can.
I'm kidding.
You will be able to hear me over or under the mic.
All right. So you have 3 minutes, and please share your comments.
Hi, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Ken Kimedy. I live on Bay Dunes Drive in Pinewell by the Bay. And before I start, I would just ask, how many of you all realize that Pinewell by the Bay is an NRHA subdivision? All right, well, then that's good, because then you would be able to understand our dilemma. Since we're on the old Ocean View Park area, it was developed in the 90s as a community, a bayfront community. One of the prime purposes of it is waterfront views. So the setbacks are on all the 4 lot areas are to allow everybody to have a vista of the bay. Well, we have a problem with that in that part of NRHA's development, you are the grantor of that subdivision. And we have several issues that we've been working on for years now with trees that are affecting the vista, both on private property and on City of Norfolk property. And we also have issues where folks in the subdivision are putting buildings up and things like that, not getting authorization from NRHA. When you notify the NRHA staff of that, we've been told, well, it's too late. The city's issued the permit. There's nothing we can do about it. Now, we have issues with that. You know, the main thing that I'd like to do, ask for you today, is we, the Pinewell Citizens Committee, would like to have a meeting with your director as well as your council so we can develop a way ahead, because we realize this is a 40-year issue that's on the thing, and some of these we're probably within about 10 years of finishing that. We need to work with you and your council so that NRHA, as the grantor, takes care of these issues and makes sure that they're maintained properly. And that what we would like to do is also work on a transition plan so that Pinewell by the Bay can take over this when the 40 years are over for the different homes. So we realize that the issues that are going on, everybody's got a little bit of responsibility here. We have mostly very courteous neighbors. We have some that are not. But NRHA, we believe, has the legal requirement to maintain these things. And as you looked at some of them, I'll get to the hedge, in the deed restrictions, the issues that we have include no landscaping improvement or structure shall be constructed, commenced, or erected, placed until plans of working during specs have been approved by the grantor. That's you. We've seen on numerous occasions where that has not happened. Things have been constructed without the proper notifications, without the proper approvals, and we have a problem with that. The other thing is that the grantor, that's you, reserves the right to enter any of these properties.
Sir, so,
Okay.
I think we got the gist of your comment.
Chairman Albert, may I cede some time to him?
I'm sorry?
May I cede time to him, my time?
Well, if you, are you gonna speak?
I intended to cede time if I could, but I'll speak if he can't.
Well, what you're saying is you're gonna give him your 3 minutes?
Yes, please, if I may.
Yeah,
And if I'm fully comfortable talking, but.
yeah, I just don't wanna start a practice that
Understand.
costing me 10, 12 minutes.
No, I fully understand that. Excellent. The second part there?
Second.
Yeah. So the covenants,
Sir.
Please announce yourself and
Oh,
your
I'm
address.
sorry.
Thank you.
My name is James Davis, and again, I'm a resident of Pineville by the Bay. The covenant guidelines indicate view corridors to the water need to be protected. The master plan and the individual house placements were designed to allow lots that are 2 or 3 houses removed from the bay to front a view of the water through the view corridor. The guidelines are trees and shrubbery needs to remain at below the second level porch, which is 10 feet, and the width and shrubbery of the width of a combination of such should not block views. In addition, total width should not exceed 5 feet wide. If so, they must be trimmed to remove the obstacle.
And the final one for me is, if something breaks and you don't put it back the way it was, you're in violation. The handicap need buttons too. The front button, the front area, and the side area where the handicap used to push their button, they're all gone. They put plates on them. You can't do that. And I'm tired of beating a dead drum and nagging it. So I'm bringing it to you all. Y'all have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have, any other public comment?
At this time, we do not have any other in-person comments, but I'll check the lobby just to make sure.
All right.
At this time, we have no additional public comments.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we got a resolution that's gonna be presented by Mr. Steve Morales.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Actually, we have three items coming up before you. The first one actually deals with a nonprofit entity. NRHA over the various years has discussed and sought to create a 501c3 nonprofit entity to give us the ability to either go after certain private donations, funding, grants, work with banks in bringing funds in for basically it could be for client service purposes, it could be for special projects, it could be for our home ownership programs. So over the years, we've talked about it, and we've always had something in the way that gets us there. But now we want to move forward with that program, and we have an addition to one of the things that we're looking to do. Another function of the entity is as we try to address the need for more affordable housing. We'll be coming before the board soon with an item to do purchase and renovation. We've done that in the past with some funding that we received from Virginia Housing. And so we want to go after more of that fund and actually go after more of those properties, again, working with banks in that process. So this entity would help serve that purpose also. So what we have before the board is a resolution seeking the creation of a new entity, a 501c3, for, again, going after for grants, donations, and things of that nature, as well as for a development purpose, is moving forward.
So, and you're requesting approval on this, am I right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So do we have a motion to, you make a motion? All right. Do we have a second? Second. Properly moved and seconded, Ms. Carnes?
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Conyers?
Aye.
Ms. Chudzinski? Dr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Casagrande?
Aye.
Mr. Fraley?
Aye.
Ms. Courier? Mr. Albert?
Aye. Thank you, Steve. The next resolution.
Next resolution deals with our disposition policy, what I'm handing out right now.
While you're doing that, I wanted to kind of put the question on the floor. I don't know if Amy or Delphine know the answer. What is our designation now as a entity, the Norfolk Housing Authority? What is our, because nonprofit gives you a designation under the IRS code, right? And what is our code now?
Right now, NRHA is simply a political subdivision of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and some of the funding partners and grants available require an agency that is designated as a 501c3. So this would be a two-step process. First, creating the entity legally after approval from City Council, and then submitting an application to the IRS to receive 501c3 status.
All right. So I was just curious because I was wondering if somebody gave money to us right now, could they deduct it from their taxes and they couldn't just randomly just, okay. The next resolution, Steve.
So actually, the item before we have the board today is a resolution on our disposition policy. Again, what the short of the policy is that we basically have four methods that we approach when we're going for disposition. The first one, straight up, a request for proposal. That is, we bundle our lots or put a lot out, and we do a public offering, and we put that out in a request for proposal. And then when responses are come back, they're evaluated, and we select the bidders for that process. We also have the ability to do direct sale. And so there are instances where the circumstances are such, perhaps that the adjoining property owner to one of our parcels, it makes better sense for us to combine those parcels. And so we'll do a direct negotiation with the adjoining landowner. Or there are some other instances, again, where it makes sense. Another one is we transfer land to the city. And that can be for a variety of reasons. Certainly for right-of-way, the creation of parks, cases where they're doing some public work, or where, and this gets to the list that I provided to you all, is that a lot of our land, we have different sort of, let's say, flavors of land. There's some property that the NRHA acquired using our own funds. There's some property that we have that are originally part of our public housing communities, where we've gone through demolition and disposition, and we have portions of those. So that would be authority property. And then there's a lot of property that we've acquired over the years using city funds. They could be community development block grant funds that we received as part of doing conservation and redevelopment activities. It could be city CIP funds, capital funds, where they directed us to acquire lots. And so in cases such as those, in essence, the authority may be operating as the royal we in the ownership of the land, is that we've acted as an agent of the city, and the land is therefore city land, in essence, and not just authority land.
And that's what the status is now?
That for some of the properties.
Okay.
Some of the properties. Again, I'm just sort of giving a flavor of the different properties. So we have NRHA property, and we have some that are NRHA property, but / they're really city property. And so one of the methods that we have in our disposition policy is the transfer of that land to the city. Also in the past, we've actually done auctions where we've had a number of lots, and again, haven't really determined what the true valuation is, and it seems to be somewhat of a hotter area, and that you've got a number of folks that are looking for it. It's we've used in the past in some instances an auction where you just put it out there and take the highest bidder straight up. The policy also states that any land where we're selling that's $500,000 or more, then that method will be brought by the executive director to the board and discussed with the board before that transfer.
And anything less is not purview, the board doesn't have purview of?
It's not that the board doesn't have purview of it. We certainly report to the board on a monthly basis. And then a lot of our work, we're going through the subcommittees, so the board members will be made aware of any time we're going out for an RFP, when we're in discussion for transfer of the land. So it's not that the disposition policy specifically states that we don't have to talk to the board. It's just that for that specific item, it absolutely comes to the board.
Within the policy, does it stipulate which committees, the board committees, then are part of that deliberative process?
It does not. And that can be worked out between the board and the executive director.
Do you have a copy of the policy? This is the list of the properties.
It's in the
Which
packet.
policy is in your packet?
In
In the board packet.
In your board packet.
This is a revision,
The original disposition policy was approved in 2004. So for this board, we're bringing it back before you.
Bill, you need a hard copy of the.
Page 23 of our board.
It's the draft that Mr. Clark gave to all of us, unchanged.
You said, say it again?
You wrote it, right?
Yes.
Okay, and it's that draft unchanged.
Is that what you want to see?
I've already seen that.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean,
it's unchanged.
Is it just being adopted as the original draft?
Oh, I
Is
see.
that what's before us right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you good? Is what you're saying?
I understand.
Yeah, appreciate it. You understand?
Again, I think the key is it's just clarifying. We want to be very upfront and transparent in how we're disposing of our property. And so we lay out for the board the various methods. And it's just, again, a reiteration of our disposition policy.
To the other commissioners, you know, this resolution, is the one being proposed, is, on page 22. And so is the original language, that was drafted in '04, which is property disposition policy, not, currently. And that, this resolution will change that, right?
It will definitely update it, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I think the one other provision in there, and this has been always, which is, again, there are prohibitions or there are methods for, NRHA employee, commissioners, council members, et cetera, agents, that the policy does state about the prohibitions on the sale of land to basically staff, conflicts of interest. So that part of the policy is also in there. And that's standard that we'd have from the original disposition policy, and that just continues straight on with this one.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, it caused ED some challenges most recently and some issues. So I understand the need for it. Any questions on the resolution?
Did I understand that there is a committee, or there will be one formed?
Nope.
That will.
No. I mean, so the disposition piece, just so everybody's clear, I mean, it's the disposition policy. So there are circumstances in terms of what we have outlined in terms of, like, it will come through finance, it will come through real estate. There is no new committee for that. We do, all we're trying to do is put spotlight and formality around a process that already existed. There were holes in it, and we're trying to make sure that those holes are closed. I mean, nothing nefarious has happened, thankfully. And so we're just saying that, hey, we're updating the policy. Policy is based on other authorities that we have researched. And so we updated our policy. And so we're just saying in certain conditions, this is where we would come. So we're not going to transfer a large piece of property without the board. However, if it's a lot or something along those lines where it will be assembled for development, that is something where we're saying here we're clarifying what kind of exception. You don't want to come for every lot, every side lot. You don't have time for it. I don't either. And so, but we want to clarify what those checkpoints are for those various pieces. So we certainly would go advise both, if everything runs through finance, I guess, and then everything runs through real estate.
That point,
Yeah.
the draft that I saw came at our finance committee
Yeah.
that we had last month.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that what I can say is we saw the draft, and I don't think I got a Word document that I could then add any kind of editorial input. And I don't recall seeing in that draft
Mm-hmm.
that where the committee oversight, if there's a way to put that into the language so that it's clear that what committees this of the board this falls into, either finance or development or real estate or a collection of all of them. I think that language should be more explicitly stated in the policy. And as we've seen this, the last time this was reviewed was 20 years ago.
Agreed.
And I think we want to make sure that if it's going to hang around for another 20 years, that there's a connection with this list, this inventory with the board.
Let me just say, I think we're kind of close to getting in some areas that may need to be discussed in closed session. And so I would kind of caution us about, just fully engaged in this right now. There is a very real reason, I guess, for the change, and it is really very, very obvious once you get an understanding of how we're hamstrung in some areas now. So, if we could, Ms. Collins, if we could sort of get this into a closed session.
Yes, sir, it's on the agenda for today.
And then, our executive director just share with the board why this is problematic and needs to address, and there's a small measure that he's taken to address it. So I think all of you will be fully clear on, you know, what we're doing in Washington. Is that, you okay with that? Nick?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, Steve, you got one more. Oh, no, we haven't passed this one yet.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if we're gonna have further deliberations on this, then that means that the policy is ready for voting.
We can table it.
Yeah, no,
It's fine.
We defer.
We can.
what'd you say?
We can defer.
Okay, all right. So we'll defer this one. And, go to the third one.
So, the third item is, the Hanson Company, is a private development company out of Richmond. They have approached the authority on a project in the Park Place community. They've acquired the, Baptist Church on 31st Street in Colonial. It's been vacant for a number of years, and it's a historic structure. The Hanson Company is looking to do a independent senior living apartments there. There used to be a sort of a side building as part of it that was torn down some years ago. So the Hanson Company is looking to rebuild on that portion of the site, some new apartments, as well as convert the church itself with some interior apartments as well as some community space. They're looking to partner their preferences with some medical group. They're want to be in talks with either Centera or other groups. So they've approached the authority as they feel that a partnership with us will give them allow them to pursue some various funding sources. And so they have want to enter us into their development partnership board for the project. We would participate in the development fees. We would have a light lift. We will not be at financial risk. The authority will not be putting any money into the project. We will assist them through with community outreach, assist them with discussions with the city, assist them with discussions with Virginia Housing. But this is a new approach that again we haven't seen in a while, where again a private developer is approaching us to be part of a development program. From the authority standpoint, we see this as a great project from the standpoint is that this is a historic structure in Park Place. There's a number of the churches, some other churches are going through renovation and conversion to residential. So we see this as a way again to preserve a historic structure in Park Place, as well as provide needed affordable housing in the community for an independent living for seniors. So we recommend approval and moving forward with this partnership. Questions?
I apologize in advance for this question, and it's clear from this question I've been watching way too much Shark Tank. So you know that the NRHA would have no financial risk in the project, but then it says at some point there will be the creation of a limited liability company and one of 30% ownership. So, and I know it's probably two separate things, but doesn't ownership kind of imply that we have some financial risk?
When we create the limited liability company, arm's length away from the authority, the firewall.
Thank you. No more Shark Tank.
Anybody else? Can I get a motion?
I motion that we move to approve the resolution as presented.
It's been probably moved and seconded. Ms. Carnes, if you would call the roll, please.
Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Conyers. Ms. Chudzinski. Dr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Casagrande. Mr. Fraley.
Aye.
Ms. Courier.
Aye.
Mr. Albert.
Aye. Steve, is that all you have?
Actually, for the next one, it's not me, but I'd love to welcome up Nicole Brown from Urban Strategies. It's part of the Choice Neighborhoods CNI project. There are
Only time I get to see her.
there are three components of the CNI project. You have housing, and you have neighborhoods, and you have people. And Nicole Brown is with Urban Strategies, and they are the lead on the people section. In your packets is the 4-year annual report, and Nicole Brown will be doing a presentation on that report. And Makisha, if you can pull that presentation up, that'd be fantastic.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I guess I need to get ready. So with that, all right. Good morning. I am Nicole Brown. I'm the Operations Director for People First Empowered by USI. I've been on the ground with this project since the inception in 2019. I started as the lead mobility specialist, relocating the first 100 families, then moving on each year to a new position, and here I am now running the whole shebang. So I am actually really grateful, truly invested in this project, and I would love to share what we've done, but I always say that this is not about people first. This is not about USI. This is about the work that our families have done. And all of these stories represent our families. Every number, every number represents a household, represents an individual. And so the achievement that you see is kudos to these families for their tenacity, for their courage to even go through this transformation process and move towards stable and thriving. So, next slide. So first and foremost, our Year 4 Impact Report covers the period from July 1, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. And usually we just get I'll take this off with you. There you go. All right. Usually we just get a statement from our mayor just to give an impact on the work that's being done, and he wanted, they want to pretty much give a little synopsis from our council woman, Royster and Paige, which is the co-chairs of the St. Paul's SPAC committee, and then Esther Shin, that is my president, and of course, Michael Clark was the executive director of the NOHA board.
Interim.
Yes.
Says the little voice.
Right.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. This is Year 4 by the numbers. This is a group of folks right here, was just the folks that have boots on the ground. These are our case managers, some of our workforce specialists, education specialists. So pretty much by the end of Year 2, we originally had 618 households enrolled. We had 611 because we were going back and forth until Steve returned and we clarified our numbers. So at this point, we have 96% of these households enrolled. So to date, we have 577 of our households, of the original households enrolled in supportive services. I want to get us away from the term case management because we're not here to manage people or cases. We are here to support families, walk them through the process, build capacity, strengthen muscles, and prepare them to return to the redevelopment and function as needed. Next slide, please. Oh, yeah, thank you. So for Year 4, housing stability. At the end of Year 4, 100% of our original residents were still eligible to return. We didn't have folks that had lost the rights to return at this time. They were all still eligible to return at the end of Year 4.
And Nicole, before you leave that slide, let me just say, for the sake of our commissioners, all of our commissioners may not be familiar with the names of various properties that are being redeveloped. So Kindred is one community of replacement housing that was, it wasn't built as replacement housing, but one community of housing that now absorbs a good deal of the people that have been moving up and mobile from St. Paul.
Yes, Kindred is the community. Origin and Reunion are the two buildings that's up and coming, that's correct. And so Kindred is the community that our families will be returning to. Right now, we are in the process, of course, in collaboration with the Housing Authority to ensure these folks are coming back. And so we are returning families to Reunion. Reunion is now leasing up and in the process of getting ready to have Origin leased up, which is the family units, 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. Reunion is 55 plus. It's a senior unit. So at the time, at the end of year 4, we still, all of our families that's enrolled, that's really important for us to highlight. If they're enrolled in supportive services, they still maintain their right to return. We did not have at that time anyone that was enrolled in supportive services. So those households, those 577 or households at the time, they were all still eligible to return because they were following all the least compliant or all the things that was needed in order to retain their rights.
Nicole, can we talk a little bit, I love this number, I'm not quite sure I understand it. So 100% of the original households.
Enrolled in supportive services.
So that's not like that's not the number, that's not the N of households in Tidewater Gardens.
That's correct.
That is the number that were enrolled
That's
in
correct.
supportive services. And that 100% is the same 100% for the folks that have the right to return.
That's correct.
Right.
But again, everyone would naturally, with this being a volunteer program, supportive services is volunteer. The families do not have to choose to be in case management. There are extended benefits to case management because you get someone to walk you through the process. But we do have families have said, you know what? I'm still a Tidewater Garden resident. I still can return, but I choose not to do case management. So when we speak about our families, we are always speaking about the families that have accepted case management and is being supported during this work through the case management. It would be hard for us to track anyone else that is not in supportive services because, you know, we don't know what's going on in their lives. But the goal is always to get 100% of those 618 households, get them all enrolled. But folks honestly have choices, but out of the 618, we do have 577 enrolled in supportive services.
What?
Out of the 618 original households, we do have 577 original residents enrolled. So there's about, what's the difference? 40, and then of course people don't have deceased during this time, but that's current number.
No, I was thinking that it's because the 98 or the 96.8%. Is the umbrella, the total number.
It's the total, correct.
And then so.
So the 96% is the percentage of folks enrolled, and the 100% is all of those people were still eligible to return.
Okay.
Did I confuse you?
No,
You good?
I confused myself. But no, it's, I know there's a difference. I was trying to figure out what the delta was between the total number of Tidewater Gardens folks that I know that at some point you all touched. You at least offered the offer.
Yes, that was able to offer
So I
that
was
one.
just trying to figure out where that landed after 4 years. So this has been really helpful. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Among the former residents of Tidewater Gardens, yes, ma'am. Yes.
Of the 577.
And this, so let me correct you, 577 is current. In year, if we go back, I believe, did it tell us the number? Can you go back one screen just to make sure? 592. So between the end of year 4 and current, we have, at the time, we had 592 enrolled. Now we're at 577 because we've had deaths, we've had, family moves, so all of that. But at the time of this report, we had 592 enrolled in supportive services.
And those supportive services, leading up to my question, what are you finding the need of those services? Maybe tell us a few of those services or those services that are rendered, and which of those services are more paramount, that is needed most well.
Let me go through the presentation. It might answer some of your questions because we kind of talked through some of those things in our presentation, I believe, and then I can always go back because it varies. You have services we have education support through our education specialists. We have lead mobility specialists who provide mobility counseling, applying for units, taking them to view units, talking to landlords. We also have all of our family support specialists who do all of the work based on our pillars: education, workforce, economic mobility, housing stability. So services ranges honestly based on the need of that household. Every single household is given an assessment, and based on that assessment, based on what that assessment says and the family wants to do, that's how it's mapped out on the work that's going to be done with that person.
Okay.
Next slide, please. So since year one, this is from year one all the way up to year 4, 31% of our, relocated residents, relocated to a neighborhood of opportunity. This was also taken from the shared dashboard that we did with NRHA. As families relocated, we tracked, and the housing authority tracked where the families were based on the CNI, guidelines of 62% of the, 62% of that neighborhood, under 62% of that neighborhood was not, did not have a minority concentration, and under 40% was below the poverty. So based on that definition, 62-40, 31% of the households that were relocated to a neighborhood of opportunity. 91% of the households relocated to a neighborhood with under 40% poverty. And I'll tell you why we wanted to track that as well. Because while we wanted to track neighborhoods of opportunity by at 62-40, we also really need to dig into that. These are families that have choices. And yes, my choice may be that neighborhood of opportunity, and HUD may define that as a neighborhood of opportunity, but you also have that definition that says 62% of that neighborhood can't be a minority concentration. And so that alone, we want to make sure that the families had choices, and they can decide where they want to live, and they can decide what neighborhood would be good for them. So what we wanted to focus on was not just the neighborhoods of opportunity, but really deconcentrating poverty. When we came to Tidewater, 99% of the neighborhood was in poverty. So what we wanted to do is, in this process of relocating, even if it was for temporary, for them to return, and for the new community to be a neighborhood of opportunity eventually would be the ultimate goal. We wanted to ensure that in the meantime that they were in neighborhoods with a lower poverty concentration.
And some of you are hearing some of the titles and terms and words for the first time. And if you haven't attended, been a part of a thing called Advisory Committee meeting, they meet the third Tuesday of every month. If you haven't been a part of that, you probably wouldn't be familiar with some of the language that Nicole is using. It's language that was put into place with the People First model for moving people from poverty to upward mobility, and Nicole regularly, they provide a report to the advisory committee where these titles, percentages, statuses, all of that is unpacked at St. Paul's Advisory. And that's why I really kind of encourage our commissioners, the third Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. We meet now at the
Food bank.
Food bank. Yes, thank you, Nicole. The food bank on top of the drive. But if you really have some time, you want to kind of get up to speed with the entire thing, including contractual obligations, future things that are going on, development issues. That's where the presentations are made. As you all know, it's chaired and co-chaired by 2 council members. And for that reason, we can get some really steady informational flow. Go ahead, Nicole. I don't want to slow you down too much.
Okay, thank you. 42% of the relocated residents by year 4, and of course, everyone knew by year 4 we had 100% relocated. Everyone's Tidewater was completely empty. So by that end of year 4, 42 relocated to a neighborhood with under 20% poverty. So these folks even went to a neighborhood with less poverty than those that were at the 40% poverty rate, and then 23% went to an NRHA public housing. And honestly, these were folks that made the choice. Again, it's about choice, and families chose to go to another community through NRHA, or said, I'm not ready yet. I want some more time, and so we continue to work with these people. We don't say, okay, you moved to NRHA and that's it. You move to another property. We continue to support these households because, again, the plan is for these families to retain their rights to return to the beautiful units as we've all seen thus far. Next slide, please. Oh, you can go back. The last slide. Go back for a second. Yes, and if you notice, yes, around the table, and these are some activities. We constantly do monthly meetings with the families, again, to just see what's going on or provide support to the families. We do a lot of group sessions, where we invite partners to talk about their programming, connecting families. So you'll see some of these pictures around the slides, and those are of our resident engagement meetings. Next slide. So education, by the end of year 4, 77% or 121 of 157 of our eligible residents' children are receiving early childhood development screening. So that's pretty much saying that these children are being screened for the basic childhood illnesses. They're going to their doctors. They're kind of getting that pre-assessment of that age group. And then 47%, which is 61 or 147 of our residents 0 to 5 participate in center-based formal home learning programs. And 53%, 37 of 71, and so that 71 is how many children is in that age group. So 0 to 3 were enrolled in eligible learning programs for the 22-23 school year. I want to talk about that for a minute, because between the 0 to 5 and the 0 to 3, we did some deep diving. We were trying to figure out with our parents what had happened. So they just came out of COVID. Really, at that point, we were still having challenges. Well, some of the things that we got from our parents was they just wasn't ready to let their babies go back in an environment. They were, scared, or they weren't ready to send them back after COVID. And so it's a challenge even now. We're continuing to have these conversations. We're continuing to educate. We're continuing to have our education specialists, as as you were asking earlier, I'll give a quick story. We had one mother, she has this child who has, who's already should be in school, and her fear was that, this child wasn't going to be treated correct, right? The child had some issues that it needs to be addressed, needs to have a IEP, and it was just a fear of having to let her baby go with her not being there and someone else taking care of this child. And so my team got together, the family support specialist, the education, they grabbed the parent, they called the school, they had a meeting with the principal, they walked her through to the classroom. They were able to really help her process. They got the teachers together, and they really sat down, and that was really impactful for her. And sometimes that's what it's going to take. It's going to take that hand-holding to walk someone through that process. And while we got that child registered, we're still fighting to make sure that child go to school every day, because every day she comes up with a new reason why she doesn't want the child to go to school. I remember my education specialist at the time was living in Hampton, and she literally drove here every morning by 7 o'clock to knock at the door where mom is to make sure that child, is ready to go to school. And so sometimes it's going to take that much work. And a lot of times you're not going to see the stories in the number, but the work that's being done, it will impact at the end. You'll see those numbers show up, but it's not going to show up sometimes in the way that we think, because it's the day-to-day work that's being done.
May I ask a very quick question? I noticed further down in the slide when you get to economic mobility, you do have a baseline number.
Yes.
Just for example, that 91%, 21 to 23 who enrolled as seniors graduate, that's an impressive number. And I was wondering if you...
Go ahead.
You're agreeing, or?
I am agreeing, and I'll tell you why. We'll go right ahead.
And I was going to say, do you have a baseline for these numbers in comparison?
I would need to go back and look at,
I'm not asking you to go back and do research. I'm just curious if was that tracked as well?
I got to double check on that piece, because I know we tracked it from year 1 each year. For HUD, we do have to report how many seniors have graduated. So each year we've either seen increase or decreases. I can tell you that for sure. And when we jump on that is exactly 21 of the 23 students graduated last year, that actually graduated. We had 2 students drop out in the middle of the school year for various reasons. I'll be really transparent. One was taking care of the household. He was the young man, and he was taking care of mom. Mom wasn't working, and he was taking care of siblings. He was getting everybody to work. So in order to get this child, which you'll see it show up in this report this new year, this child is now re-enrolled in school, because we had to do some work around getting mom employed. We had to do some some work around getting before and after school, the little children. So in order to see that and free this young man up, we had to do some multi-generational work in order to get this child, but he is back. So for everyone that did not graduate last year, they are back in school this year. Next slide.
Gotta do that multi-generational work.
Next slide. Economic mobility, that's the baseline. When we originally started, in 2018, all of the residents, when you take all of their income together, it was actually a little lower than that, but HUD wanted us to use what was in the system, so it was 14,177. That was the baseline. So can you imagine families? And remember, our households in Tidewater each has at least 2.5 children. So each household at least has 2 children minimum, or average, and our families were making 14,177 at the start of that. We know that that is not a living wage. That is not income that they're going to be able to sustain, even if they went into private rentals. They weren't going to make that. So our work is heavy when it comes to economic mobility, and my workforce specialist will tell you that, because she's tasked with finding employment and supporting our families, and everyone's not going to go to work, which we would love to, but we realize that everyone is not going to go to work. If you look at my unemployed population, we'll talk about that in a bit, my unemployed population is 90% of that is single females with children, and so they're not always prepared. So we also have to look at other options. If you're not going to work, what else we can do to build economic mobility? Are you prepared to go back to school? How many of our families don't have GEDs, right? And I know that just because they obtain a GED don't mean that they're going to get a job right away, but it is a pathway. And so we are also working on that. There are some challenges that we are finding within the city as a whole, right? The GED programming, the times that the classes are, it's not working for our families, right? The classes are in the daytime. We got families that need the GED, but they're working, right? So we're now working around some avenues. Are we going to bring the GED program to People First? Like, what are we going to do? What are the things that we need to do? And this is the work of People First. How are we going to break the barriers down so that we remove these barriers so that our family have an easy access to, economic mobility, education, and things of that. So by the end of year 4, our annual income did rise to $24,029. That is still not a livable wage based on Norfolk, but it is a stride, and we're continuing to support and continuing to build capacity for these families by connecting them to all these resources. We're targeting jobs that's starting at $18. We're trying to make sure that they have the training programs or whatever it is that they need. We're doing soft skills. We are doing a Thriving Tuesday where we do soft skills, interviewing skills, resume building. We bring other entrepreneurs in to talk to the residents. So we're doing all kinds of things to shift and get our families ready for employment. In 2019, the percent of able-bodied persons working more than 30 hours was 71.2. Today, that number is 81.4%. So as, again, of the end of year 4, we went from 71 to 84 for folks working more than 30 hours. Next slide. And this is just a snapshot of all of the 4 years at baseline. And then year 1 was 18, year 2 was 18,826, year 3 was 21, and year 4 was 24%. So this just gives you a baseline of where we've moved throughout the last 4 years. All right. Next slide. Health and wellness. Another big one. We understand, again, that if our families are not well, they can't go to work. They can't, they can't continue with employment. They can't maintain employment. So that's a big thing that we focus on at USI as well. 97%, 573 of our adults, residents, had health insurance. We want to make sure everyone has health insurance, in order to treat the illnesses that they do have. 100% of our children have health insurance, and we continue to have 100% because there should be no reason that a child don't have insurance, even if it's a matter of us supporting by helping them fill out the application. 85% of the 499 residents in this category have a place to go, outside of going to the emergency room. When we started, a lot of folks was using the emergency room. So we wanted to make sure they had their own PCM, their own doctors. That is important. So we wanted to ensure that at that point, 85% had a place that they would regularly go, and 93% of our individuals that had chronic health conditions were actually seeing a doctor to manage those conditions. Next slide, please. Just a quick highlight, I'm not even gonna go through all the stories. Nettie Bond, Ms. Nettie Bond is debt-free. When we started this, she only had a few debts, but again, finances didn't allow her to do that. We connected her with the Up Center, we did service linkages, we followed her through. And while she actually started this process in 2021, I wanna say, 2021, it took her until 2023 to become debt-free. We're trying to get her to go into home ownership. She's a little scared, but we're walking her through that process. Miss Dennis, the good news with Miss Dennis is that she had 2 associate degrees, and right after she graduated, we helped her move into a community that she chose. She received a letter saying that she's no longer eligible for her housing choice voucher. That was a big accomplishment for her. She was really excited about that, and so it was a big accomplishment for her and for us as well, because she felt, according to her, I graduated one week and I moved out of Tidewater Gardens the next. For me, Tidewater Gardens was a place to get back on your feet, and it shouldn't be a place to live permanently. And so her goal was to no longer need subsidy, and so she's reached it. And Ms. Leno is actually our outreach worker now. She now is working for Urban People First, where she's actually she was homeless. She lived in Tidewater for years and years and years. She'll tell her story. The big piece for Ms. Lino is that she didn't think she could do anything. She ended up getting her degree in medication management, but there were some challenges that Ms. Lino had that was preventing her from doing that. She had some things going on that, I'm not gonna go into it, but some things going on that prevented her from being licensed. And USI People First walked her through that process. We met with the board. We went all the way to Richmond. We sat before the board with her, our workforce specialist, and we walked away with her license.
Oh, boy. No, I mean, you're doing good work. That's all.
Next slide. Housing stability, Ms. Victoria Allman, she just wanted to move into a neighborhood that was good for her and her family. Like she was a grandma that now was a parent, and she wanted a picket fence. And it's okay to have that dream. So we supported her in getting that picket fence. Whatever it is that she desired, she was really happy, and she loves where she is. I don't think she plans on returning because she has a backyard, and that's what she wanted. Miss Pinkney, hopefully, Miss Pinkney, we'll see her in the next couple of weeks, but Ms. Pinkney is currently at William & Mary, received a 4-year scholarship to William & Mary on the Posse. Yes, she did. Yes, Ms. Pinkney, she's doing well now. I will tell you there were some challenges, right? Like, we were getting calls every week. She was having challenges just assimilating and being a minority on the campus. Those are real things, right? So my education specialist, and I will never forget, her FSS and a couple of other got in our van, packed her up, got her to school, ensured that she had the things that she needed to get to school, in school. And then every other week they were at William & Mary supporting her, right, following her through that process. She didn't want to leave because she was really uncomfortable. And so she had made the decision about a couple of weeks ago that she wanted to leave and she was going to apply to Hampton University, and we didn't want her to not finished in school, and so we kept having conversations with her. She met with a Posse group, and they had a retreat, and I am so happy to say that she has decided to continue on, and she is doing well with honors currently as of today. She'll be home next week for spring break. But my team still drives up there and support her, and that's, again, it's about the work that's being done. We didn't just send her. It's about staying connected to the families. Mr. Yanye, he's another one of our multi-generation. Mr. Yanye was taking care of his mom, his household as well. He's the second generation that was doing that. So in order to free him up to get him to go to, he went to Merchant Marine. In order to free him up to get him to go to Merchant Marine, we had to work with Mom first, get her a job. Mom works at Centerra, and then we were able to get him freed up. And now he's actually actively in the Merchant Marine making really good money. We just spoke with him a couple weeks ago. Health and wellness, Wellflow is just a partner. We highlighted that they continue to do work in the community, and we continue to support them by ensuring that we have residents connected to these services. So that was one partner we wanted to highlight. Next one, please.
Is that it?
I think that's it.
Good job.
Questions?
Very good job. You all did great work. I've seen this report, but, not in the format that we just got it. And, go ahead.
I'm sorry, it's been a while since we've had a report from the report, so thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And we have new folks, this is I think their first exposure at this level to what you all do, and,
Thank you.
so thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions?
I just want to say something. Thank you, first of all, for that presentation. My personal opinion on the board, we'd love to, as you have updates, and I know you go to, saw you at St. Paul's SPAC meeting, but we'd love to have, as you get new updates, for us to be updated as a commission, as an agency, because we have more responsibility to the people, the residents in these communities. So it's definitely very important that we kind of stay abreast as well. And I know everyone's probably not able to make those other meetings. But yeah, thank you for that. And one of my questions that I definitely had in reference to the programs and the pillars that you guys use, with people moving into, one of the things that I'm really concerned about and I'm focused on, not really concerned, but I'm focused on, is how we transition people into these new communities, reunion, kindred, all these things, right? Because you're living in an environment where it's different socioeconomic status, right? You have doctors, you have people, FBI, you have people living downtown, right? Well, everyone's living in these mixed buildings, right? So how are people who were transitioning from these houses, these public housing, how are they doing in these communities? In reference to common spaces, like what are we teaching people on how to, on how to interact in these spaces where it's different? It's a completely different environment, right?
Absolutely.
Taking you from young,
That's
where
correct.
there's been a lot of crazy things going on, to be honest and transparent, we're moving you into these communities where it's mixed, right? It's mixed income, right? And these buildings and these investments that the city has made are business decisions, right? And they have a reputation, right? We want it to be inclusive, everyone to be able to stay in these, right? So what are the things that you guys have put in place to curb some of the old habits, right? Just because people move away, that doesn't have to change, right? So these are real questions.
That's correct.
Right, like what do we have in place, right? Both to help, because that's the first thing we want to do. What do we have to help, and what do we have in place to for corrective action, right?
So, thank you for that. That's actually a good point. So what we've created is our relocation specialist, and again, this is only for those that are enrolled and can, is going to come through our services. But yes, so prior to anyone moving in, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think we was able to really make it mandated, but we kind of did because we wanted to make sure that exactly what you said. Because what we've also seen is reality. Even when we've moved families to other locations, we've had issues come up. We've had thousands of dollars of damages. Behavior does not change just because we move someone from one relocation to another. We have to address behavior. We have to. So the first and foremost thing that we do to bring our families back is every resident that has been approved through the Housing Authority to come back to Kindred and then sent to the property manager, they are doing a mobility session. In those sessions, and they're going to do several, but the first session tackles just that. We're reviewing we have a copy of the pre-leases. We were able to reach out and get a copy of a sample lease that they would be using. We are able to go through detail in that private space, because at a lease signing, you're just signing, right? But we're able to go through that lease with them step by step. These are the requirements, right? To ensure that you are aware before you sign this lease, this is what you're going to be held accountable for. And then we're talking about, like you said, community, neighborhood, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. Each resident, again, also has a family support specialist and a lead mobility specialist. So after 30 days of moving in, we do monthly check-ins anyway. We're meeting with our families monthly anyway. We're having conversations. The team is meeting with them, but after 30 days of moving in, we are also having our lead mobility specialist go in to say, how was this, right? What's going on? You know, how was your move-in? Is everything going well? What's not working? And then the third piece of that is to actually stay in connection with the property manager. We are building those relationships, and we have asked them before issues have to get to the court or before issues have to get wherever, please connect with us first. And that has been working. Call us first, call people first. Let's sit down. We do a lot of interventions between the property manager and the resident to resolve these issues before it gets to the next level. There's times that it's out of our hands, we can't go any further, but we do everything in our power to have those conversations. And I'm gonna be transparent. Before we get to a place of eviction, we're gonna say to that property manager, hey, let us get this person out of this lease. Let us try to fit somebody else in. Let's try to fit them into another community that works better for them.
I appreciate that transparency. Because, I mean, it's not, I get the numbers, right? We all want to see the roses and the flowers, right? Like, but it's very important that we talk about the stuff underneath the hood. Right?
Absolutely.
And we need that level of transparency and communication because we really need to know what's working, what's not working. If we need to bring in new services, if we need to implement different types of practices in order for this thing to work, right? Because the vision for the city of Norfolk is that we all can live together, right? Shouldn't be a bunch of separations and communities and divisions. And it's like, how do we bring a community where, you know, we're 90% poverty concentrated into places like you've seen where you have people moving into neighborhoods where there's less than 20%. I think it's like 31% of the people, you know, we want people to live in these places and we want them to be as prepared as possible. So thank you for that work and that focus.
Let's change behaviors. Again, transparently, we can't expect, and we don't. We have to meet our families where we are. We honestly do. And there are times that we've had to get people out of units. It just wasn't a good fit.
Nicole, we got another.
Some of the individual stories that you presented are inspiring and kind of represent the basic principle that we're spoken about here: move in, move up, move out. But those are individual stories. But the data that you showed about the increase in household income is remarkable.
Thank you.
I mean, a 70% increase in average household income over a 4-year period in this challenging environment is amazing.
Thank you.
That being said, $24,000 a year for a single parent household with 2.2 children is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
The question I have for you is what needs to be done to move to this point, to something approaching reasonable, that we need to do more of what you're doing, or do we need to do something different in addition to what we do?
We need to do more of what we're doing. It's a hand-holding piece, right? And ideally, like you said, and I believe you just said, ideally, it's getting to the core. And I love the way that USI do our work, because a lot of times, like you said, you see what's at the top of the iceberg, right? You see that $24,000, but what does it really take to get that resident to 24? Beneath the iceberg is trauma. Beneath the iceberg is systemic racism, self-care. Like, there's so many things beneath, and in order for us to get them there, it has to start at the individual, one person at a time, trying to figure out what's needed. And so for us, we need more jobs. My workforce will have a fit if I do not stand here and say we're going to need more employers to be willing to take a chance. A lot of times, the fact is they hear Tidewater Garden residents or public housing, and we've literally started training our residents to not put your address on your resume. Because we have noticed that putting your address on your resume gets you discriminated against. We're teaching real life skills. We are literally saying to our families, you know, be mindful of your Facebook page. We've lost a unit just because someone viewed their Facebook page, which made no sense. So we're teaching real life things that we're experiencing in order to equip them to know how to compete with everyone else, as you said, that's in the community. That's the work.
Did I? Okay. Again, good morning.
Good morning.
And so I'll start again. If it goes out this time, then I know it's a conspiracy. But I'm going to say, wow, I do want to welcome again Commissioner Casagrande to NRHA, and it's been a pleasure talking to you a couple of weeks ago, and look forward to working with you. Yep. So I wanted to start out this morning with just to discuss Bobbitt Midrise. So as many people may have known or heard, last Sunday, not this past Sunday, so the 3rd, I believe, we had an outage at Bobbitt. It happened around 9-ish, 10 in the morning. And so there were a whole bunch of things that were kind of swirling around that in regards to payment and non-payment of our utility responsibilities. It has nothing to do with that. So to be clear, and I'm sure no organization is perfect, but we did pay our debts. Now it's deeper than that in terms of what the issue was, and so folks are have worked through that issue. We have reestablished some things that I think are desperately needed, moving from paper process to electronic and things of that nature. But I am two things I would say that I'm very proud of our team in terms of jumping in and responding. And so, as everyone knows, it was a very long day. It seemed like it lasted from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Because of the series of events that happened. And so I am, happy in terms of Cheryl Saunders, the site manager, Ebad, Brenda, Mike, Karen, who kept us up to date, all the folks that kind of jumped in to make sure that everything was okay in that degree of chaos. I will say, while we enjoy a good relationship with Dominion Power, there are some things that definitely need to do different, and I will express my views from the seat of executive director as to how that should be. But to our residents, we did send a correspondence to them apologizing for the issue. They do have a meeting scheduled for this afternoon, and I plan on attending. I did want to let everyone know that I did meet with Councilmember Doyle. This was the week before last, and we had a really good discussion on a number of different things. I think she politely gave NRHA a nice little swift kick in the pants in terms of get busy on some things, and I'm all right with that because we do need to do that, and we do, and we will. And so I will touch on our Tampa visit, because I'm sure everybody else is going to talk about that. But from this podium, I'd like to thank Jerome Ryans, who's the CEO for Tampa Housing Authority, as well as Ward Moore, who is the COO, for being gracious host for NRHA and for the time that we were there. I think we learned a lot. We talked about it a lot. I think we're a better team as a result of that, and we're not that far off. Really, I think that's a good thing. A couple of different things have kind of swirled around, and I think that it's important for, now, to be clear, because I'm going to say it from here, I'm a personal fan of not taking on too much and fighting the battles of the world. But I do realize that there are certain fights that we do need to take on. And I think in terms of whether it was the bond issuance approval, which we're thankful for the city council, or other things that have come up, to me, for somebody who has been here for 4 months, there is a real deep need for education around affordable housing tools, and ways to really kind of alleviate some of the pressures within the city of Norfolk. The reason why I say that is because we're fighting over things that really don't make any sense. And there's a deep misunderstanding in terms of just how programs fundamentally work and what we can and cannot change. Now, I understand that certain people use that for their advantage because in secrecy or in confusion, sometimes people take advantage of that. Others don't. Others just don't know. And I think we need to really kind of figure out ways of being able to make sure that people are connected, because people are really hurt out here. And so as someone who has personally had to look for housing, who is somebody who is not qualifying as low income, it was hard. It was hard. And so, so I can only imagine in terms of the individuals who have to go out there and fight every day. And they're not the individuals that Nicole said, they are part of that, 14, 15,000, but they're people that are beyond that. So I'm going to continue to say that the median income in the city of Norfolk is $70,000. That's roughly around where 80% of AMI is. for whatever your family size may be, plus or minus. So I think it's upon this agency to really take a step to make sure that people are educated around these particular things, because I am from a place that at one time said, we're not San Francisco, we're not New York. And it's true, we're not. But the housing issues that they experienced back then have only further exacerbated, and where I'm from is even worse than that. I think that jurisdictions have an opportunity and a chance to really kind of do things early on. Like anything in life, it becomes more expensive later on, not cheaper. And so I think it's upon us to really work in a way to educate people what affordability means. Because affordability does not necessarily mean low income. Affordability just means that you're spending 30% of your household income towards your housing costs. Surprise, surprise. And people are doing more than that in most instances, whether you need subsidy or not. So we just need to really kind of frame that in the tools in the toolbox. I will completely say that I will never defend the loss of any affordable housing because it is needed. I will also recognize that there are opportunities across the city that we should take advantage of and expand. So I just want to make sure that it's very clear that if we're going to be advocate in chief, that's fine. If this is our lane, we'll own it. But we need to start a campaign to educate people around it, because what we do is good work. Lastly, I would say we're missing one spot today, and that is Commissioner Arrington. And so for those who do not know, Commissioner Arrington resigned on Tuesday. I gave her 24 hours just to confirm, and she did. And so I do want to use this opportunity to say that she has been very committed to this organization, very committed to the folks in our that we serve in our communities and in our voucher program. And she's been a real true advocate for folks in the community. She's held us accountable. She was never afraid to pick up the phone and call, and we will miss her. With that, I'll turn it over to Scott. Oh, or any questions? I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome to the team. I'm going to be very brief this morning. We've got a lot to cover. The committee meeting yesterday went about an hour and a half, so we covered a lot of ground in the committee. I want to point out some things from my memo, just talk briefly. The audit process is progressing. The audit is due to HUD on the 31st, which is Easter Sunday, so it'll be done on the 29th. We're in the final wrap-up stage of that. Actually, our final open items list came from the auditor yesterday afternoon, very late, so we're tying those things down. We have to work on our footnotes then, and then get it through review on the audit side and get it submitted to HUD. So that's progressing. The auditor will be here remotely for the April meeting to brief the commissioners. Also, he will be available for the April committee meeting. There's something new in the memo. I want to update the board. We are moving towards a payroll HR platform with ADP. We're hoping to go live with that by the end of the fiscal year. That's going to not in essence be so much of a cost-saving move as it is an efficiency move. It's going to allow some freedom for staff upstairs. It's going to allow some things with April as far as recruiting and a platform for her that will again allow just efficiency within the departments. So we're very excited about that. We've been trying to do that for a couple of years, and it's nice that that's finally getting going. Finally, on the operating budget, we spent a great deal of our time yesterday on the operating budget, and we will brief the full board later today on aspects of that. So just want to let you know that's coming. We have a goal to have the final budget ready by the April board meeting. We've accelerated our goal on that a bit to have that done and finalized for the April meeting. And then the approval process will take place in the normal course of business, but we want the numbers to be tied up next month. And I will yield the rest of my 3 minutes to Dr. Smith or Mr. Fraley if they had anything to add from yesterday.
Anything else you want to say?
Leave it to you, Doc. I'm fine.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you. Who's next?
Leslie, she'll be right in a
Is
second.
that?
No, Leslie.
Nobody else?
Leslie.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The open house was held at Grandy Village, Learning Center on March the 9th. Occupancy pulled 100 applicants that were drawn from the wait list. 33 applicants were in attendance. We also had raffles where we drew names and gave out $50 gift cards. Very few were turned away for the following reasons. One was disapproved, 7 were rescheduled, not having the necessary documents, 8 were canceled for not meeting the working preference or disabled or caregiver preference. 3 were returned to the wait list, not meeting the preference for bedroom size. 68 were no-shows. Currently, half of the attendees of the open house are being processed to ensure that all vacancies at Grandy Village are filled.
Are you done, please?
Yes.
Okay, I know you don't come up here every month, but remind the board members who may not be familiar with you, who you are, where you work.
I'm the occupancy director. I work downstairs on the ground floor.
All right.
Thank you for that.
Any questions?
You don't like doing public speaking, do you?
Not really.
But she's good at it. Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Leslie.
Now we have this seasoned professional here.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning, ma'am.
I'm presenting on the behalf of the Housing Choice Voucher Program. And with the Housing Choice Voucher Program, we continue to administer the program. We continue to work hard to ensure that we make the process seamless for our participants. We've streamlined a lot of our documents and our paperwork that they have to submit to us to ensure that we are assisting them appropriately, getting their income appropriately. We actually changed a lot of our forms. One of our forms, we put 6 different forms that we used to have them to sign all in one form. It's inclusive in one form now. We actually give them copies of that 6th form, but we have them to sign that one form that they read and that they understood that. We continue to process lease-ups for the Housing Choice Voucher Program, the SRAP program, VASH program, mainstream, the SRAP certificates, project-based vouchers, emergency housing vouchers, and also absorbing our port-ins at this particular time. We continue to meet with our finance department just to ensure the process that we are leasing properly, and if we need to lease additionally. Our inspectors continue to do inspections for the biennial inspections that are required, initial inspections for all persons coming onto the program, doing transfer moves. We also do inspections for the city of Portsmouth and also the city of Suffolk and also Newport News for their agency-owned community properties that they cannot inspect themselves. In February, our Landlord Advisory Board, which consists of 6 landlords and 3 HCV specialists, had the quarterly meeting, and this was led by our landlord liaison. The topics discussed were utilizing the advisory group members to identify landlord groups as we are out marketing for new landlords, especially in our low poverty, high opportunity areas, utilizing current landlords also to identify new landlords and property management, advertising landlord testimonies on our social media. That's something that we are hoping to do very shortly. Developing a landlord step-by-step guide that we will be able to pass out to all landlords to be able to put it on our website. Sending HCV information to landlord organizations to be shared with members, and just streamlining the process when a landlord submits a request for tenancy approval form to lease to one of our properties. Of course, we have updates coming within the Housing Choice Voucher Program, the HOPMA, HUD required, the new Inspire inspections, and we are hoping very shortly to do a workshop for our landlords so that they will be prepared, as this is coming on October the 1st, and also the small area FMRs. We have several project-based future obligations. We continue to work diligently on a regular basis, almost weekly. The developers are contacting as they may have changes in the number of PBVs that they're requiring, or also changes that they request in their LOI. We did have an opportunity on February the 14th, Valentine's Day, to go to the new and upcoming Aspire community, which was very, very nice. So we're working diligently. I'm working on our administrative plan, which will be updated July 1st, 2024 for FY 2025. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Pamela, somebody asked me about the housing choice voucher application process.
Okay.
Don't we have to wait until that's open, because sometimes the application process gets so backlogged, it just doesn't take anymore.
Correct. The waiting list is only open when we almost deplete the existing waiting list. We currently have 3,297 persons on our tenant-based waiting list. However, at this time, this week, Monday, we took applications for a specific targeted population of people that are either homeless, they have to be non-elderly disabled, or exiting institutions. So the application process for taking applications is not ongoing, basically, because when we take applications for the regular tenant-based waiting list, which we've done before, in one day, we've taken over 15,000 applications. So we want to be able to house the people, and once it will be open, we do advertise in your local newspapers, on our website, and agencies.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
Hi, I'm looking here and it says, NRHA announced a rolling PDV request for proposals for property owners and developers for new housing developments in Norfolk and neighboring jurisdictions, with applications due on February 8th. There were no applications submitted. How is this being advertised? Where is it being advertised?
It's advertised in the local newspapers. We advertised it in the Virginia Pilot, and we also advertised it in the Journal Guide. And it was on our website and on the EVA site as well.
They had a big piece on there in the Virginia Pilot, probably about maybe an 8 of a page.
Yes.
Well, who should somebody contact if, for example, there's a developer who's interested?
We will, by it being a rolling RFP, it will go out again. So at that time, if they are interested, and just let them know to continue to monitor our website if they do not read the Virginia Pilot or the Norfolk Journal Guide, and it will be advertised on our website as well.
You may want to reach out to you as well in advance of.
Yes.
Will this be a matter of discussion at the upcoming developers meeting?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Watford.
You're welcome.
I like that smile up here.
Good morning, everyone. Yvette Thompson here. I'm going to give some brief updates on property management. One of the first things I want to talk about is the survey we sent out. We sent out a survey to our residents. Every occupied unit got a survey. We received a little more than 600 responses, which is phenomenal. So we analyzed the information. It's going to take a minute because it was manual. So we're going to put the information together to see what the needs are and how we can accommodate. We did come up with another way next time to do it that won't be so manual, a QR code that, so because it's going to take a long time because there's so many of them. So we feel pretty good about that, and we're excited to see what everybody said. The other thing is our call center that we're also very happy and proud about. We did a soft launch with Oakleaf on April 1st. We are going to add another community. It's going to be our Calvert Square community.
That's the call up.
For the call center.
Oh, okay.
Yep, the call center. And in 2 months, we took a little over 800 work orders in through the call center. So it's a little over 400 a month. That number doesn't, the call center doesn't change, the number of calls we get. It just makes it so that we can get the work order closed quickly and track. The other thing is our compliance auditor. It's going very well. We continue to have our new admission files audited so that the file is whole and complete as it relates to the regulations. We are now adding our recertification files. So we don't have an audit on those yet. We're currently uploading those. We get a report once a month from the consultant that tells us what we need to correct in our annual recertification files. And this will help us have better audits and get a higher score so that we can get back to being a high performer. The other thing I wanted to talk about, Leslie actually talked about the open house. And I just wanted to kind of say a couple more things about it because it's the very first time we did that. Nathan came up with the idea, we kind of put it in place because of the vacancy, the project-based vacant units at Grandy Village. So we took the first 100 applicants on the wait list and we invited them to the open house. And as she said, about 30 of them showed up and they processed about 40. So that was kind of a big deal for us and we will definitely do that again. So that's my update for today. Any questions?
Any questions for you there?
The call center success, it sounds like you're getting about, what, 12 to 13 a day?
About 15 a day,
about 15
yeah.
a day.
Mm-hmm.
Like
That's just for one community though.
For one community?
Yeah.
How is that process going now that you kind of centralized, that the call center? How's that going from a turnaround and productivity perspective?
It's actually going really well because what happens is when a work order gets called into the call center, they put the work order in, and several of us get the work order. Every staff member inside the office gets the copy, comes to me, the maintenance director, his assistant, we all get it. So that way we can see all the work orders. The call center also, twice a day, they have to receive the completed work orders before lunch, before they go home, so that they can close them out. So that way the report's not showing work orders open that should be closed because they get closed every single day. So it's really going well. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes.
Was the question to every community?
I'm sorry?
Was the question to every community?
This is to every public housing community. The question was the questionnaire sent to every community? It was sent to every public housing community?
Yes. Anything else?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Questionnaire.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I was whispered to as I was coming here, and I think someone said 3 minutes. And I have a surprise. It's going to take me 1.5 minutes today, and I will actually give my time to.
You know the time doesn't apply to you.
Well, it applies. It is. But I do want to start off by saying this. I just heard the comment that Rose Arrington has, Commissioner Rose Arrington has resigned. And I just want to make the statement how supportive she has been, not just as a commissioner, but when she was a resident in Digstown. And all of our residents who served as commissioners on our board, Worktron White and others, have always been engaged in what it was that they were engaged in, how they were inspired, whether it was, and sometimes seemed as though it was not always an advocate for us or not an advocate for us, but they have, having a commissioner from the community has always been a great thing to sit along with you guys. And I just want to recognize Commissioner Rose Arrington again for the great work that she's always done. And with that being said, for us here in Client Services, I'm Julius Norman with Client Services Department, Director of Client Services. With that being said, when I talk about Rose Arrington, I'd like to continue to say one of the things that we're doing in Client Services is we continue to do and encourage our residents to be engaged in initiatives with NRHA. And we find that to be very important because as we get our residents more engaged and more coming out, we can see how we can really make the change. And I found that to be more than, I saw an example of that last night, Executive Director, as we had a resident to talk about some of the things that was going on in the community. And as they were talking about the things that's going on in the community, they made sure that they held us accountable. But I say to anybody who's a partner with us, residents, that the accountability also has to go with you. So as they do their part and hold up with accountability, we accept the accountability on our end because we're going to do, and you can see the staff who came up here, directors who came in and talked about the different things that they do. We honestly work hard and we look at it more than a job. We're invested in what it is that we do. So once again, I say the piece from the Client Service Department is to encourage our residents to get involved, to be engaged, to be actively engaged in the initiatives that actually happen in our communities. I was once told this week by someone that some of our programs and some of the things that we're doing, they're ideal in certain areas. But sometimes we have to get out the minors and jump into the major league. And I won't say who told me that, Commissioner. You told me that very well, but that's where we are. So if you look at our piece, is that we continue our work in the intergenerational engagement, where we have young people engaging with seniors. And when people talk about intergenerational programs, we once again want to let folk know that it's just not old folk like me with young people, but it's different age group generations that will continue to work together. And the biggest impact that we see is that we have our young people that are working with those who are in our mid-rises. And one of the things that they're working with is folk who have these devices right here and helping them to be able to use that. And they also have been working with TMCs as well and some of the things that they need to do with the budget things and other things like that. So the intergenerational programs are going well. Also, the intergenerational programs and having them to engage in different theater arts and also the safety piece that we have going on. Also, when you see on the agenda that I had right up there was HRCA, they'll continue to go to each one of the communities and are working with our residents and getting information. Commissioner Elbert would like this. They're getting information so we can actually get baselines on where we are so that we can continue to engage, so that when we stand up in front of you, we can actually tell you what we have going on. How many people are employed in our community? How many people are in educational training opportunities or vacation opportunities? So by working with our partners in our community, we're able to get that particular data and be able to go forward. So basically what I wanted to come and say to you at 2 minutes and 30 seconds later, our main goal has always been health and wellness in our community. And now that the time has changed, it's staying light longer, we are also looking at the importance of making sure that our residents are well and they are engaged, and we're having true partnerships and collaborations to make our communities not just safer, but actually healthier for everyone. And so that one day when you're walking out in our community in the city of Norfolk, you're not going to be able to tell what's public housing or what's just regular the city of Norfolk, and I think that's important. Thanks so very much.
Thank you, sir. All right. Any questions for Mr. Norman? Thank you, sir. You're welcome.
Julius, it's such a hard act to follow. I don't even know where to start. First and foremost, we have a developers forum coming up on March 28th. We have 97 folks already signed up for that. We do expect some more. We had originally targeted about 100, but went ahead and increased that to about 140. So we still have folks coming in. The big thing I want to talk about, a little bit, I was going to jump into the Tampa visit, sort of some takeaways. very impressive. Commissioner Straley and Commissioner Conyers was there, and we all got to experience quite a dramatic transformation that's going on in Tampa with the Tampa Housing Authority and the work that they're doing, particularly at a project called Encore. It is a Choice Neighborhoods project without Choice Neighborhoods funds. And it's grand in scale, being pulled off fantastically, and it had some really great lessons for us. One of the key things of the development, and Mr. Fraley and Mr. Conyers, please jump in, is one thing that we saw is there a little attention to detail in setting up a wonderful sort of urban design with the street work, with the little elements that they have, whether it's trash cans, bus stops, items on buildings that sort of tie the whole development together. The preservation of a church, a historic African American church in the center of one of the streets, just sort of set the whole stage for the rest of the community. They had a strong historic tie with jazz, and so they picked that up in all of their buildings, all of their street work, even the drain hole covers called out to the community. It was little things like that, again, that as a new resident, you're going to go, I'm somewhere special. I belong here. This is my new home. It was wonderful. So what did they do? They had a great partnership with the city. Again, and I think the key takeaway from us is that what they really embarked or put to us was, we have a lot more resources than we realize, and that we have to deploy those correctly in order to maximize and leverage what we have, whether it's our vouchers, whether it's our CAP funding, whether it's our partnerships with the developers, the fees that you can get through that, the land sales, everything. Great design, conserving or being very methodical about the deployment of the resources. Also, dream big. I think that was the biggest thing from Encore. When you walk in there, you couldn't help but go, wow, this is a public housing transformation. Wow, it is fantastic. And it was dream big, because you can get there. The other thing is, from the staff there, from the work there, their developer that was there, which was actually Bank of America CMC, which they are one of the minor partners on our project, though. From all of that, just the dedication and the work, it's that reinforcement of what we do. We go, this is the good work. This is where we need to go. And that whole feeling, again, is sort of bringing the team together, where it's that we've got big dreams, or we need to do some big dreaming, and we've got some great work in front of us. Those are the key takeaways that I had. And in that end, we have big initiatives post CNI to work on. We have large communities that need work, and we need to start dreaming. And that's one of the initiatives to move forward in the coming year, is to start that dreaming with our communities. And so you'll see that in our annual plan of moving forward with that dreaming component. It's in order to start to get to where we need to be. I don't know, Commissioner Conyers, Commissioner Fraley, do you want to have comments about Tampa?
Tampa, the visit to Tampa was definitely inspiring. It's basically where our city could be at 10 years, right? It was overwhelming, right? To be able to see $1 billion worth of development being done that was inclusive, right? That had every aspect of community, had every aspect of collaboration that you could imagine. Like, I know one of the things that, what we're struggling with in some of our communities are food deserts, right? And I think, when we looked at the numbers of, the incomes, when we discussed the numbers of the incomes of the people that live in these communities, and how they're still incorporated in these communities, and they have, for example, like a Tidewood Gardens, who we just got rid of, they have a Kindred with a Weston on the same layout. right? They had all these things in the same corridors, right? And it was fascinating to be able to see how a housing authority, right, you know, was able to do this as the lead entity, right? And that's one of the things I know that, you know, we've already gone through a CNI project. But, you know, as we continue to move on to our other processes, how do we put our footprint on the next transformations that we do? How do we, you know, take full accountability on bringing different types of business partners to our communities, right? They had a lot of commercials. One of the things that I know a lot of people are talking about is the demise of the commercial industry, like with these mixed uses. But they found a way to find creative these small businesses, whether they were minority businesses or they were just small entities, small chains, to be able to come in these community barbershops. I think we saw healthcare providers. We saw all types of different businesses that were able to occupy these spaces. I think they said they had like an 80% occupancy on all of this commercial space, which was very good. And the work was done. It wasn't economic development that were able to find these things. The work was done by the housing authority. Most of the work, most of the architectural, most of the design, most of the recruiting of contractors, all of this stuff was done within the organization. Right? That was super motivating to be able to see that this housing authority took full accountability of the transformation of their form of project housing, and they made it work. They made it work in a big, big way. And they've had the same demographics, similar demographics to what we've had here, and they've got the work done. So it was really, really impressive to see that work you can actually touch it, you can feel it, and you can talk to the people who made it work. And just little things that I noticed just with the contracting background. One of the big things that I took away was that they created their own HVAC system. So they have like a water cooling system. They built a facility that has a water cooling system where they provide air conditioning to all of the units throughout this. It's like 400 units. And not only that, to the hotel that's coming. And to the public. Everyone has to use their system, and they make a profit off of it, right? So that they've actually found a way to create revenue outside of just building the project, which was really, really fascinating to see. Just the level of thinking that they put, you know, throughout this process was really, really impressive. And I think it gave us some really big ideas and really big hopes to go to an even higher level. So I'm excited to be able to do this.
I think,
I'm sorry, Rob, I'll be real, because this is really more of a rhetorical question coming from someone who hasn't seen how things work. So I don't expect an answer on this as far as our city is concerned, but from the perspective of those who went to Tampa, I'd be curious to see if you were able to discern an answer to this. One of the things that I've wondered about, and specifically in relation to types of projects like you just discussed, was the interactions between the various commissions, committees, et cetera, that, you know, that operate under the authorities, such as us, for instance, planning, architectural review board, and things like that. Does Tampa have a similar structure to our city where there's different people sitting on different boards, that projects like that would have to go through different things, and then in return, do they work well together? Is that something that would have to happen? And again, I'm not asking anyone to comment about that in the city of Norfolk, but I'm just wondering if that was something that had to have been part of what Tampa was able to put together. What sounds like a very successful program.
Let me just say, very briefly, I don't want to cut anybody's question or comment short, but I think the intent of the executive director was to give his team, our team, a perspective on what can be done and benchmark so that you are able to look at a similar entity and then get a full understanding and appreciation of what can be done without sort of zeroing in on any one specific. And I know that's a good benchmark to do that, but I think that overall, am I right?
Yeah, well,
That's why I wanted to ask that as a rhetorical question, just throwing it out there. If that's going to be something we benchmark for 10 years down the road, is that something we need to be thinking about?
Yes,
If
and
it's the
Oh, no, that's a good
And that's
question.
it.
No, it doesn't have to be, no, that's a good question. I mean, I would say, Mr. Chair, just in the interest of time with the, public hearing for the cap fund, that we recess at this moment, and then we can come back to this, after the conclusion of that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, give me a motion and then, and then we'll go
We don't need a
out.
motion.
We don't need to,
No, we don't need a motion. We can take a break. We have the 11 a.m. public hearing scheduled. We should adhere to that schedule
All right.
because that was advertised to the public. Correct.
Yep, we'll come back.
we'll come back to this, still all your questions.
We got it.
Thank you,
Everybody's trying to get to the next.
Public hearing.
Who's doing that? Steve?
So, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we got to push it out.
We gotta go into those. I know I got all these, old guys in here. in the room. All right, we're gonna reconvene. We're back in order.
Every year, NRHA does an annual plan. We are in that process now. And so today we're taking public comment. Last night we had a resident advisory board meeting and we took comments there also. But from this item forward, this is a public hearing to allow residents and stakeholders to provide comment on the NRHA's activities in our annual plan. All of that will be recorded and put together as part of the package that goes to HUD. This item will come back before the board for resolution, and that would cover both the annual plan as well as our capital fund plan. So at this point in time, we open up the public hearing.
Yeah, that's,
Ricky, do we have anybody online or in the hallway or in person signed up to speak on the annual plan?
At this time, we do not have anyone online.
anybody else in the room? We do have one.
No, I just want to correct Mr. It was a RAB meeting. It was a RAB meeting.
Yes, that's nice.
It wasn't a RAB meeting. The Veteran Advisory
Board, yeah, that's what it was, I think. Did you say something different?
You said it was a RAD meeting?
RAB. Resident Advisory Board.
Yeah, I said, RAD.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you use acronyms a lot?
We don't have anyone online. Currently, we don't have anyone in the gallery. I will go check the hall.
All right.
Question. Was there information out that there could be a RAB meeting today? Should we have no RAB?
I don't think so.
I can't hear you back there.
I said, normally you have this over at Bruckner,
Right.
or the other residents within the community.
Yeah, it was announced.
Notified by flyer, this is happening.
We announced it. I don't know where we published it anywhere. Did we publish it somewhere?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's in the paper.
Yeah, it's in the paper.
Right, in the usual
Yeah.
internal guide.
Yeah. The only difference is where we had the meeting. And, like you say, historically, we have had them at Ruffin. Last year, though, we had it here, didn't we? Yeah, we had it here last year. Yeah.
Mr. Commissioner, at this time, we have no in-person speakers for the annual.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
I also remember last year that, somebody mentioned that you need to bring it back to where people can attend, like Bruckner, take it back there, to get a bigger turnout.
You understand? What you said?
There was a comment that, perhaps we were gonna consider, going back to Ruffner, a larger setting, so more residents can
So
participate.
everybody can come down here.
Okay.
Did I get that, Ms. Wilson?
Okay, so, no online comments, no comments outside of the room here, no speakers in the room regarding the, public hearing. With that, I don't wanna rush it close, but, we don't have a speaker. We announced 11 o'clock, so if there are no other speakers, I'm gonna, declare the public hearing closed. Okay, we got committee updates at this point, and, anybody from I think, where's Elwood?
Right here.
Elwood,
We need to,
Right here,
do
yeah.
have questions, though. We
Who has
left you right in the middle, Bill, Doctor. You're good.
no, he said I asked him before we went out. Who had a committee report? Which one of the commissioners had a report to give?
I'll jump right on in.
Jump right on
If
in.
you're all right, well, the Economic Inclusion Committee met on Tuesday, March the 12th. Those in attendance was the Executive Director, Mr. Clark, Mr. Norman, the chairman of the commission, Mr. Elbert, and myself. It was a highly engaged meeting and a lot of productive information came out. Top of mind was the importance to advocate for our residents. We know that Mr. Norman and his staff and the agency in general work very hard in doing the types of things that they are completing and doing for the residents. But we wanted to take our focus to another level to bring about some more ideas about inclusion and what that means. The value and the benefit of diversity was discussed. We wanted to make certain that we're being intentional of closing the wealth gap in our communities. And what does that look like? We talked about situational awareness, understanding the importance of a healthy ecosystem. And we left with some homework. So I'm going to be brief this a bit. We left with some homework for the committee, and that was to bring back, develop a vision for what we call the DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. Diversity, equity, inclusion. And so our homework is to come back with a vision statement, and we'll all sit down together and to begin to develop that. So it was very engaging. We're looking for our next meeting in the coming month. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Albert.
Thank you.
Any other committees?
We had an opportunity, the Finance Committee met yesterday, and this was just referenced a little earlier. Mr. Fraley and I wound up having a lengthy meeting with the Executive Director and Chief Finance Director, and they were very forthcoming with numbers that were going to be part of the further disclosure later. The other thing is I do want to point out something that you all got this roster of properties. Okay. This is something that Mr. Fraley and I have been asking for a couple of months now, and I want to thank the representatives who managed to get this. Steve, was this something that you got from Steve and Terry, or this was developed internally, or a combination?
Yeah, no, this comes from NRHA. This is from our real estate department.
All right.
Now,
we thank you very much for getting this, because I think it helps us with a starting point and understanding more about where we want to go as a board and as an organization with the properties before. Certainly we can talk about that in more detail. Thank you very much for sharing that. I also just want to make reference, we did not have an opportunity for the safety and community engagement committee meet in March. It was scheduled in conflict. And Albert, maybe I can just comment about the ad hoc committee that you and I are on.
They're a big committee.
Alfonso asked me and Albert to be part of the group that began the planning process for our next strategic planning retreat. And we had our first meeting that a couple of weeks ago, and we're looking to putting together a retreat probably over a course of 2 days sometime in June. Our consultant tag, I don't know what is that an acronym, or is that the name of the company?
That is the name of the company, actually.
Which is going to be the facilitator. They are going to actually be doing a survey of various constituent groups to help guide the trajectory of the strategic planning retreat. And we're going to be putting together the agenda and the participants in coming meetings. And we're the second meeting for that hasn't been scheduled yet, but I got to show you sometime.
Correct. And they will be doing interviews of both senior staff as well as the commissioners. So we're going to work to coordinate to make sure they can get on your schedules.
Briefly, the HCE committee met, Pamela did her usual great, more in-depth staffing report. We're kind of getting on our feet to try to, get a grasp of what the data mean. You know, there's been some differences in just the overall experience, for example, vacancies at Granby. So we were able to spend some time at that, and that was on, the 6th. Still, is to kind of, I think, accommodate me and my, somewhat large schedule. The staff was kind enough to pull together, at what would be kind of a brief-ish, meeting that looked like a safety community engagement meeting on Friday at 12. Again, just kind of getting updated on some things that Julia is doing, the work that that is doing around community engagement. And one of the things that we talked about was that ability to combine the efforts of these committees at some point in a more sort of holistic way, to be able to do some work around prevention and early work. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Is that it?
That's it.
Any other,
Yeah, the development committee, we had a scheduling conflict, computer error, so we weren't able to meet outside of the last time that we met. Of course, we give you guys an update about our trip to Tampa, which probably,
we'll get an update on, Terriana. You just got an update on what?
no, we don't have any other updates yet, just besides our trip to Tampa, we've already kind of briefed everyone through that, but we'll be meeting before the next meeting next month. We definitely have a lot of things that we came out of the Tampa visit with some go-dos, so we're working on those now, looking for some master plans and things like that. So be looking for that to be coming to you all, via Nathan. We'll have a roadmap of what we're looking to do for the Housing Authority initiative and where we're going as a vision. One of the things that Tampa did as well too, that was really, really cool, is that outside of the developments that they've done from the Housing Authority initiative, the city had other areas where development was needed. So let's say it was 100 acres, which it really was. I think the Housing Authority had about 30 acres or 40 acres that belonged to them. They did a comprehensive master plan for the entire 100 acres. They didn't just do, they helped create the entire vision of those areas. So, that kind of motivated us to really formulate the things that we have, i.e., for example, with the lots and the things that we have coming up, to be able to put together, hey, here's our 10-year master plan of the things that we're going after. Here's the step-by-steps. And I've actually challenged Nathan and his team with helping to start, and Steve to help start formulating that, Mike as well, too, start formulating that stuff, so we can kind of start seeing where we're going from a development perspective.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the strategic planning agenda, I'll just ask those of you who went to Tampa, who came away with a better, more broad understanding of things, ponder what you saw and how you would want and what you would want to include in our strategic planning upcoming meeting from that experience. And when TAG comes around, make sure you're very clear about what it is that you came away from that, so that they can put it into our what we're going to be talking about.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, one of the things that jumps out at me about Tampa, obviously there's a great deal of leadership and cooperation that had to come together to bring that to fruition. Sure. I don't know that we have that level of collaboration here in our city. It's been 10 years now. We're just getting on with the Tidewater Garden. And if you look at the timelines of a lot of the projects and the buildings that we saw in Tampa, it looks like over a period of about 15 years, they brought this whole thing to fruition. So it seems to me, in talking with the director, he talks about how they have a very, I don't want to use the term that he used necessarily, but they have a very warm relationship with city government. Right. And as a result of that, I don't want to use the term autonomous either, but that a housing authority in Tampa has a great deal of flexibility in being able to bring a lot of their visions to fruition. And, Attorney Herman spoke about the air, I call it the air conditioner, actually. It was a chilling facility that provided electricity. They had solar panels, throughout the development. It was so very well coordinated as to made me rather envious, I'll be quite honest with you, to see what could really happen when leadership coalesces around a common vision and goes about the business of taking care of their business in a strategic and tactical way that just brings it online. I mean, I was standing on one of the balconies of one of their buildings and looking out to the further end, and every little detail with regard to the pavers and the walkways even, how it all just came together and made for a very, very uplifting environment for people to live in, to pass through, pedestrian friendly, the whole 9 yards. And it's just the window in which all of this took place in such a rapid period of time, relatively speaking. And look, I don't mean to suggest that we haven't had successes. We have. We don't tout as frequently as I'd like us to. And as I say with our city too many times, we either go too far or not far enough. And it seems right here we have had some successes with the Broad Creeks, if you will, and what was the Stonebridge Cross and the Middletown Arch. Great projects, truly visionary type projects. And I would just like to see us have a little bit more impetus in terms of our collaboration with those who lead the city, our organization, and bringing these things to fruition in a more timely and efficient and expeditious manner. And I just think 10 years to get to where we are with just Tidewater Gardens, I certainly would not like to see that replicated at Young's and Calvert. We need to keep plodding away, no question, but we need to keep working on collaborating our leadership so that we can have the vision and bring that vision to fruition in a timely manner. Well said, Earl. Thank you for it. You know, there is some natural spaces that's been created for us in way of leadership for the city that we can give our attention to. And that's not to say that we not give it to the other things that may not be so natural, that, you know, it's kind of one of those things this year ought to have done and not left the other undone. But there is in my mind, I think there is a place for us in way of clean community. You know, I mean, there's no reason why we can't, especially now, Nathan has a team shaping up nonprofit organizations. Why can't we have a weatherization program or energy efficient program that kind of a natural fit for us that we can get into and generate revenue to drive so many of our social programs. So we have to create housing for people when they're not making scale wages, and when they are, we need to be the leader in providing scale wages. So when we hire somebody, we ought not be hiring them at a poverty rate. Now I know there's some reasons why you get there, but there's some natural spaces that have already presented themselves to us that we just kind of pay attention and move in that vein. There's some great opportunities for us, and you all have the benefit of having selected an executive director that has a vision and came in wanting to partner with development and develop and using that area as a way to kind of scale up and generate revenue and has a clean, clear vision for it. So I think there is wonderful opportunities, you know, where we'll be the next Tampa, if you will. People will be coming from Tupelo, Mississippi to visit us. See what we're doing.
It's crazy you say that. I think Mike Clark said 20 years ago, people would have been coming here to see East. He said we would have been Tampa.
They still come to see Broadway.
You know, and
and I'm using it on my porch.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's that, you know, it's that, what have you done for related thing that we always have to remember, right? We live in that world. It's always about the now. It's always about what you're doing. It's never about what's been done before. And we just have to get back to where we've been, because it's in our reach.
Thanks, sir. Go ahead.
I have another report, for committee, if I may, Chair.
You may share.
We met with the Public Housing Committee, week before last, I think it was. The meeting was spearheaded by, Miss Yvette, who's still here. I'm loving the direction that our committees are, moving. A lot of information, was given, and you heard some of it from her report this morning related to the call centers, and so forth. In that meeting was the executive director, Mr. Clark, Steve Morales, and myself. Miss Karen was away, maybe for much needed, I guess, I don't know if it was business or relaxation.
We kept her busy on her time off.
But however, she left her statistical data and report relative to the things that are happening in the community. I think we are really getting a grasp on reporting what is going on and then following up with what is going on. As I've asked, when things happen in our communities, I would like to see that we're bringing everything to bear to make sure that our residents are receiving what they need to receive from partners and certain services to make sure that we are addressing their needs. I had an opportunity, and I'm liking the coming together, and it has happened in the past, I'm sure, with the police department. And I went to the Young Terrace community on February the 15th, met with, I went there for another purpose and ended up meeting with the staff, Ms. Brenda and the new property manager. It was an outstanding meeting that we had, sharing information and ideas. And when we don't go to the community enough or as often enough, we may forget some of the wonderful things that are happening in our communities. And when we talked about how we should address marketing for Young Terrace, when I went out to Young Terrace, I was just surprised by the great things that are happening there. There is a medical facility that's there that meets clients on a regular basis. I met Mr. Rawls, I think. He is Rawls of the Boys and Girls Club. He's meeting children after school, and his assistants are helping with homework, recreation, and lunch. There was a food, I guess it's a food bank or distribution that is not presently operating, but it's going to be up at some point in time, where food is being distributed to the residents. I used to go out there and meet with some of the, when I was with the agency, in that very room. It's been totally redone with freezers along the wall and all of these types of things. I thought that was wonderful what's happening in the community, to the point that I would like for us as commissions, and I heard the young lady back here ask the question, that at some point when Young's and the food area is up and running again, that maybe our commission can meet in the Young Terrace community. I would propose that. And maybe at other times, which we've done in the past, met in the community with the residents, so we can be where they are and get some ideas of what they're feeling. On that very same day, Tuesday, February 15th, we did a community night walk with the Norfolk Police Department. And I tell you, it was a very engaging moment. I believe the NPD was out there in full force, the men and women in blue. And we walked the community with the residents, and it was just a rewarding experience for me. And when those opportunities come back again, I would invite you all. I'm sure the invitation is open to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for this space.
We do have a closed session And, our agenda is not robust, but certainly, carrying us a little long. So, with that, I'm gonna move up to, another level, assuming that, we've gotten all of our commissioners' comments who desire to speak. Move to closed session.
Yes, sir. There is a mistake on your agenda. It lists two, closed session items that are not accurate. However, the resolution that is in your packet is accurate. Resolution convening a closed meeting on March 14, 2024. Be it resolved that the authority will convene in a closed meeting pursuant to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as amended, the Act, to discuss the following matters which are specifically exempted from public disclosure by the code sections referred to below. Number one, personnel matters involving the assignment, appointment, promotion, demotion, performance, salaries, or resignation of employees of the authority, as authorized by Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Act. And number two, discussion and consideration of the disposition of publicly held real property as authorized by Section 2.2-3711A3 of the Act. May I have a motion, please?
I motion that we, go to closed
A second?
Second.
Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Conyers.
Aye.
Ms. Jasinski.
Aye.
Dr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Casagrande.
Aye.
Mr. Fraley.
Aye.
Ms. Purrier.
Aye.
Mr. Albert.
Aye.
We're in closed session. We can take a 5-minute break. I ask that you please not discuss any housing authority matters during the break.
And let's expedite,
Okay. Resolution certifying a closed meeting on March 14, 2024. Whereas the authority has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3712D of the 1950 Code of Virginia as amended requires a certification by this authority that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore, upon motion duly made and seconded, be it resolved that the authority hereby certifies that to the best of each commissioner's knowledge, number one, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting. And number two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the authority. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second, please? Mr. Conyers.
Aye.
Mr. Casagrande.
Aye.
Mr. Fraley.
Aye.
Ms. Purrier.
Aye.
Mr. Albert.
Aye.
Thank you.
We are now adjourned.
Ooh,
Gentlemen.